Investors are always looking for a reliable stock in an unpredictable market, and with solid full-year guidance and resolution to a long-standing litigation on the horizon, consumer staple stock Johnson&Johnson is a reliable choice. Don't get caught up in thinking the stock is boring. With J&J's track record as a dividend king, you'll want to pay attention. Let's get into it. All right, Chris, Johnson&Johnson is the hot topic today. First, I want to quickly hit on the consumer staple sector as a whole. How does being a part of that sector make a company like Johnson&Johnson more resilient during economic downturns?
Well, the consumer staples sector in general consists of companies that, for lack of a better way of expressing it, they make must-have products. They're products that consumers are going to buy no matter what's happening in the broader economy. And Johnson&Johnson certainly does that. I mean, almost anybody that's listening to this can probably go in their bathroom, look in their medicine cabinet, and they probably have a product or two that is manufactured by Johnson&Johnson. And the other thing is that companies such as Johnson&Johnson, because they're such large companies, they have the pricing power that can help them manage through inflation. Not only can they pass along prices easier to consumers, but they also have the ability to discount their own products without cutting into their margins as greatly. So that's why companies like J&J can be a little bit more resilient during these times.
For sure. All right, so we're expecting a solid earnings report from J&J next week, but as you know, the company's been in the news, mostly regarding the talc litigation. What's the expectation for the upcoming earnings report, and can investors expect litigation to be over, or are there more chapters to come with that?
Yeah, as I wrote in my article for MarketBeat this week, the best answer that I can give as somebody on the outside looking in is maybe. I'm cautiously optimistic. The company has the courts have accepted an $8.9 billion settlement so that they can settle the tens of thousands of claims that are tracked back to the company's talc-based baby powder product. There is a group of lawyers, however, who are challenging the ruling. They're saying that it was done in bad faith, and so there may be a couple of chapters left to come, but it's looking pretty good that Johnson&Johnson will be able to resolve this, and this will be something that then investors can start looking at other things with the stock, as opposed to having this litigation hanging over the company.
All right. What about the patent protection concerns on Stelara? I kind of think about the similarity to AbbVie and Humira here, and the concerns investors have with that. So how does Johnson&Johnson plan to offset the loss of patent protection on Stelara? What impact might that have on the stock?
Yeah, and I actually give Thomas Hughes a little bit of credit, because when I was going to write my article, I was looking at an article that he wrote back, I think, in February, and he was bringing up the fact that Stelara was going to be losing its patent protection, and I was looking into it a little bit. One thing that I found that was pretty interesting, it doesn't take away all of the concern, but it takes away some of it, is yes, Johnson&Johnson is going to lose some patent protection on Stelara in 2023. But like many pharmaceutical companies, they've built what they call a patent thicket around Stelara, which means they've got several patents for different conditions, different indications of the drug that don't expire yet and won't expire for several years. So that means that while Stelara will be able to be used, there will be able to be generic equivalents created for Stelara for certain conditions. I think psoriatic arthritis is one of them. It won't be able to be used in all cases, and for other areas where Stelara is used specific to those patents. So it's an interesting thing to keep an eye on. But yes, they are losing some of that patent protection. I think it's in September of this year.
All right. Okay, so in this market, is J&J a buy? I just don't know that a 2.75% yield is going to get investors excited, Chris.
Well, you know me well, Lacey, in the sense that I'm going to always look at a dividend. And I would agree with you that just looking at the dividend yield itself of 2.75%, that's not going to excite a lot of investors, a lot of income investors. What I would say is I would hone in on the words in this market. And I would say in this market, yes, J&J is still a buy for investors, because you are getting that 2.75% dividend yield. You are likely to get some growth at least through this year because the generic equivalents aren't going to be probably impacting the company much until the fourth quarter anyway. So it's not a bad stock to invest in right now because of the stability and because of the dividend yield. You'll probably be able to get something. The market is largely trading in a fairly broad range, but it's still trading in a range right now. I'm not necessarily seeing that changing too much before the end of the year, or unless the Fed does something that I'm not particularly expecting them to do. So I think right now in this economy, J&J is probably a good bet. Moving forward, it's going to be interesting to see what they do in terms of acquisitions or growing their own pipeline to get other things in market. But for right now, I think it's a solid choice for investors.
All right, so the upcoming earnings report is going to shed some light on the company's financial performance and the ongoing legal battles. The company's strong earnings forecast and history of dividend growth makes it a solid investment in a relatively lackluster market. Is that what I'm hearing, Chris?
Yep, I think you summarized it very well.
Perfect. All right, well, it's great to have you on today, Chris. As always, I'm going to be linking to some resources for investors in the description below. Be sure to check those out. Thanks for your insights today, Chris. We'll chat with you soon.
Thanks, Lacey. It's always a pleasure.